Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. This is Alleson Gregary, and today I'm with Alison Pulito. And Alison is an oracle and guide to souls who are ascending their consciousness. She acts as a mentor and a soul contract facilitator for those on their pathway to discovery. Those souls are working with the collectives and masters to create integration and patterns for other souls to ascend to. Hello, Alison. It's so nice to have somebody with the same name.
Isn't it? I know.
Yes.
Go Allisons.
Yeah, go Alison. All right. Well, first, I want to hear about your awakening journey because I think I saw a few blurbs online and it sounds pretty incredible. Please share.
Yes, it really is such a long and convoluted story, like so many people have, right? Of what brought them to higher states of consciousness, like one bit at a time. Some people have this prolonged story, and some people have these really dark nights of the soul or really profound experiences. And mine really started with a journey with chronic pain. And I was interestingly born with dysplasia in my hip at a really advanced hospital, Yale New Haven, and it was undiagnosed. And then like at 13, I injured my hip and never got an x-ray or anything. And it turned out that I had fractured my epiphysis. So I had these two deformities, fell skiing, and suddenly I had the arthritic hip of an 80-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
So there was this reconstructive surgery and 18 months of rehab. So all that time I was not awake or aware or thinking about, the parts of my body and what was speaking to me, or maybe like, why these things were happening. But fast forward to my early 40s, and it started getting really bad again and had to have surgery. And the hip replacement that I had failed about 5 months after I had it put in. It's a pretty intensive surgery to have a hip replacement. It's getting easier and easier. So I had to have a revision surgery. And when I had the revision surgery, something happened that the surgery got delayed, and I ended up like at 5 o'clock. And it was a really involved surgery because it involved taking out the old one and putting a new one in. My hip was deformed, my femur was deformed. There was all these things that they were working with, lots to navigate. So I was under for a long time, lots of loss of blood, and woke up and was sort of like, had no feeling from the waist down. And it was like maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m. or something. And I started to panic because there was nobody around me. It was the strangest thing. You're in, when you're out of surgery, they put you in like a step down where nurses are monitoring you, monitors. It's, before your family can see you, and nobody's around. It's dark and I'm by myself. And I really start to panic because I can't feel my body. And so the alarms on the monitor start going off and nobody's coming. It's such a strange experience. So I start screaming. It's almost like in a dream when you're screaming and the voice won't work. And this guy comes over, and he's a young man. He's not dressed in any hospital gear. And he sits down next to me, and he's like, I'm going to get somebody, don't worry. And I'm just going to keep you company until they get here. And he started talking to me about his dog and just like these very sweet stories about being a kid. And it just kind of really calmed me down. And he had these piercing blue eyes. And, the next thing, I kind of like the lights came back on and he was gone, and the doctors were all, and nurses were all there taking care of me. Keep going. And the next time I'm in the hospital again, getting a spinal implant. There's so many details to this story. I'm skipping over like another hip replacement, then the chronic pain and this spinal implant. And I'm at a different division of this same hospital in New York City, and waking up from the spinal implant, having trouble coming out of the anesthesia again. And sitting next to me is this young man. This is now 4 years later, this young man with the same piercing blue eyes. And I said, oh my gosh, were you at the hospital for special surgery like 5 years ago and he said, well, I've worked in the system for a long time. And he sat there and held my hand as I kind of came out of the anesthesia. And I said, well, what was your name? Because I always wanted to, they had these cards that you could fill out that said like staff appreciation. And I'm like, well, what was your name? And he's like, my name's Michael. And like, it still gives me chills to think about it, because Michael, Archangel Michael, continued to be a theme for years in my life. I mean, even through, I'm a Reiki practitioner and a quantum healing practitioner, and even through all of those sessions that I started to have many years later, Archangel Michael came through so vividly and so poignantly. But he carried me through the healing journey. And that was really the first time that I started to realize there was, an unseen source of support and guidance, other than what I was taught was prayer or connection to God, Jesus, all of the things that were in my religion growing up. It was the first time I had this expanded consciousness. And out of the pain, was on a significant amount of narcotics for years, and started to meditate because I realized that was really not going to help me. And as I started to meditate, I started to see things and started to hear things. And it started to prove itself to me. That dedication and commitment of focusing inward and focusing on the breath work, you start to really tune in to that still small voice that we hear about. And one morning, my daughter had just gotten her driver's license, and she had like 3 small accidents very early on. She was just not the best driver to start with, but she was driving to school, and that would be my routine to meditate after they drove to school. And as I'm meditating, I see her car in the road coming to a stop, and a deer walking right up to her side view mirror. Like she almost hit it and it almost hit her. And I thought, that's so strange. Like, why did I just see that? I'm meditating, calming in my nervous system, doing all these things to help with the chronic pain. Sure enough, she gets to school and she calls me and she said, Mom, you're never going to believe what just happened. And
did you tell her?
Walk to her side window on their way to school. So I was like, this is crazy. I started to realize that I was getting more, and I practiced with it. I'd be like washing dishes at the sink, and I'd say, oh, my husband's coming back from his run, or, oh, so-and-so is home. And I would have that knowing, like, and prove it to myself. So all these things started to prove themselves to me. And it expanded my interest. I started to, kind of read books and listen to, at the time, Hay House Radio and some things to expand my consciousness. And one morning I was particularly depressed because I was isolated at home for almost 8 to 10 years, not really being able to travel. I could really not even walk out to my mailbox.
Because of the hip?
Yeah, it was just debilitating. And one morning I woke up, I was really pretty depressed, and I heard loud as day this voice that said, you are loved. It was like there was this man in the room, this booming voice, you are loved. And I'm looking all around me to see who else heard it. But it was the start of a lot of miracles and beautiful things. A hawk that stayed with me for years that would just like, make himself known and fly down by my window or sit on a perch right outside my window, follow my car out of the neighborhood, just all kinds of things that really proved themselves to me. And this is interesting. One day I was sitting there and my kids would go to school and I couldn't wait to get out and meditate and, light candles and clear the house and listen to podcasts. And one day I said, are angels real? If this is real, can you show me? Can you show me if this is real? And maybe 10 minutes later, I walked out my back door to go to the mailbox. And I looked out on the lawn and there were feathers covering it. There were at least 40 or 50 feathers. I still have them.
Oh my gosh.
I walked and I looked down and there was one and there was another one and there was another one. I mean, my idea is that, you know, like the reality is that maybe the hawk got a crow, but they were so beautifully, perfectly spaced all over my lawn. And it was within 5 minutes of saying that I just like, you know, it was such a validating, incredible experience. So I met all the right people, and I just really started to write and meditate and realized I could channel, and all kinds of things unfolded. I started going to a Reiki practitioner to see, you know, what kind of non-physical things might be associated with the pain, because I was like, this is strange, you know, my body's healed. Why do I still have pain? Maybe this isn't physical, maybe this is energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that started a very deep interest in energy healing and the understanding of energy. It's just been my passion, you know, for at least the last 10 or 15 years, understanding how energy works. And I really realized that, you know, finally we're energetic beings having an experience, and, you know, we're more than just the physical body and all of these things. And going to the Reiki practitioner, I was well for about 10 minutes after seeing her, and I kept going, and every time it was like I had 10 minutes of feeling really great. So I decided to learn how to do it myself, and it was really the impetus to all of the healing work that came after I became a Reiki practitioner, and started doing quantum hypnosis and really working with people who were going through conditions that created some sort of, you know, distortion, whether it be illness or, you know, relationship, or, you know, some sort of life condition that was causing them discomfort, and working with them to see what that was, to learn what that was. And gosh, so I could just keep going. There's so much.
There's the interesting part to me is there's a lot of people that suffer from chronic pain of some sort, whether it's an injury that just keeps, you know, exacerbating itself, or fibromyalgia or something like that. And what advice would you give to somebody going through that? Because it feels to me like a lot of those things are an impetus for waking you up, yes, in a sense, and shaking you, going, okay, you haven't listened. Now I'm going to physically shake you and go, here, we want you to be aware. We want you to be more conscious. You know, mine was a cancer journey, and you also had that on
yes.
top of your hip journey. Yeah. So yeah, what advice would you give to people going through that, and how did they end up finding hope? Because some of these people are pretty desperate and pretty, you know, beat down after all that.
Oh my gosh. It's such a hard place to be in, because you just want somebody to hold your hand and lead you, to show you the way, you know. And our bodies are high vibrational compared to, you know, non-physical things. And, you know, when you've got some place in the body that's either chronically ill, or with regularity showing up. So say somebody has a kid, has tonsillitis all the time, and strep throat as they become a teenager, and then maybe they have some thyroid things going on later in life. It's all a pattern of the same theme, and showing up in different densities. So that's one thing that I would think about, is if I have chronic pain, like, let's go back to when this started. Like, what were the conditions in my life when this started? And really start to just grab a brand new journal, go back to what the conditions were when I started. What was happening in my life? You know, what were my relationships like? Where was I living? All of those things can be telling. And the other thing too is just in terms of investigating the nature of it, because everything that's showing up has a nature and a deeper truth. And I think that's one of the things that we're really working with now, is understanding that truth is so much deeper than we know at any given time. That as our consciousness shifts, we see an even deeper truth, higher perspective. But just kind of starting to undermine some of those things gives them energy, brings them to reality. So if it was like, well, I had my first throat when my parents were fighting, sore throat when my parents were fighting, those kinds of things are telling about maybe what's in the psyche, or what's been seeded as a limiting belief, a false belief, maybe some sort of programming. There's a lot that gets programmed into the psyche when you're a kid, by a teacher, by a parent. There's a lot of literature that says it can even be an expression on the face or a reaction to seeing you that leaves this imprint on the psyche that can limit how you operate and what you believe to be about yourself. So all those things are so important. And as you start to do that, some of these deeper memories may come back. Some of the things just might pop into your mind. Awarenesses. Somebody was just talking about that today as they were talking to me. She's like, oh, I just remembered this big event that happened to me that I had forgotten about. We kind of tuck things away to protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. So as you start to work with that, the other thing that would be interesting for people to look into is the chakra system. These are the energetic centers within the body that govern the organs and systems in the body. And they're located, some people know about chakras, some don't, but they're located in 7 centers within the body. And to expand, there's more than that, but these are 7 central centers to our well-being and how the mind and the body work together. So if you look into the chakra system and, kind of start to draw the connection between where you're feeling symptoms and what that chakra represents in terms of psychology and biology, it'll add more clues to the, to the conversation. So just that kind of awareness can bring you into a place of compassion, understanding, and starting to unravel the story, because we're all working in these timelines and stories. I'll call them stories. They're threaded timelines that are weaving our lives, and they're all important. They're all there for a reason. They're all there so that we start to learn and grow. But those would be my suggestions. And then, like on the physical side, to start to meditate and breathe. And that's easier said than done when you're in pain, discomfort, anxious about a diagnosis, recovering from surgeries, is to meditate. And I always advise people to take 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night to meditate. And if you aren't a good meditator, the first thing when you wake up in the morning, normally the first thing we do is we're like, roll over, maybe it's a new day, I have this today, grab my phone, is to just take those first 2 to 3 minutes after waking up and breathe and quiet the mind, because it calms the nervous system and it really gives us an opportunity to transition from the state of sleep and pause the program that starts right away. Anytime we can place an interruption in the programming of our day, of our routine, of our thoughts, of our reality, it's an opportunity to shift things. So that first thing, and then the meditation, 10 minutes a day. A lot of people say, I can't meditate. And, there can be things like walking in the forest, or, feet in the sand if you have that opportunity, or sitting in your favorite spot in the garden, painting. But also meditation can be done by just following the breath. And one of the things that I teach is that when you close the eyes, and we can actually do this together just for a minute.
Yeah, guide us through one.
Yes, I'm just going to do a simple practice of meditation with breath. So it's recommended that the base of the spine, which is our root chakra, this is what connects us to the earth. And you can imagine that there's actually like an invisible umbilical cord that goes all the way to the center of the earth, all the way to the seat of life, the core of the earth. So as we seat ourselves either vertically or horizontally, just remembering that cord that connects us to the center of the earth. And then if we breathe up, extending all the way up to the top of the head, and this is our crown. And this crown is our connection to source, to all that is, a white light, God, whatever feels right and true to you, higher connections. And so now we're vertically integrated, right? We're connected to source and connected to the earth. And bringing awareness now to the heart, which is our center. And drawing a breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Allowing that exhale to just linger, softening the shoulders drop. Drawing another breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. That could be audible breath. And one more, in and out. And softening into an easy breath. All awareness on the breath. On the lungs expanding. And the lungs contracting. Breathing in and breathing out. Every breath, the awareness on the taking in and the release. So this is one method, and another method while we're in meditation is to bring awareness to the Tandien or the sacral chakra. And this is just below the belly button. And imagine drawing breath up through this place, through this point of the body, up and out the mouth. So this is drawing up the body and then releasing through the mouth. Breath in and out. And this becomes a cycle of coming in through the Tandien, the source of life force energy, drawing the life force energy up the central core and out the mouth. And seeing this as a cycle or a rotation of breath. Returning to an easy breath. And asking now that the heart open and soften. And all that is light become evidenced within you. And all that is light become a part of your being. And that every cell every center, every aspect of your being be in coherence with the light and in coherence with all of life itself. And as we breathe into these aspects, know that we are whole. We are a whole being, part of one source, one divine universe. Connected to all that is with every breath we take. Every breath in is taking in all of life. And every breath out, releasing all that does not serve. And creating sacred space within this vessel, within the mind, the body, the heart. And all is one. And so it is. And it is so. And as you breathe in and out, recognize this life within you. And that you are part of a bigger theme, a larger source. You are guided, protected, and loved beyond measure. That we are here, guiding, leading, protecting, showing you the way. And so it is. And breathing in and out, releasing the shoulders again, and whenever ready, opening the eyes.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Now I'm like ready for a nap.
I know.
It's so, and you know, it's so amazing. I think back to my corporate life years ago. I don't think I took a breath once.
Yes.
I don't think I ever took a breath. Now I take these deep breaths and my husband's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm breathing air. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. You should try it." But we forget. How do we forget?
How do we forget? And it's such a transitional space. Every breath you can take in all that is and release all that doesn't serve. You know, this just cycle and consciously knowing that. One of the groups that I've been working with, we call them Mary Magdalene. We've been studying Mary Magdalene. And one of the things from that group that we've been practicing is this idea of the breath as a transition of dimensional experience. And so one of the things that the Essenes practiced was this 3-breath system. And I tend to naturally in meditation hold those first 3 breaths as coming into the state of presence, and the last 3 breaths as coming back into the state of awareness. So when she talked about 3 breaths, one is coming into the heart, one is coming into the being, and one is releasing what is. And so if you're in a cycle, say you're at work and there's a lot of stress and expectations of you, those 3 breaths can shift your dimensional consciousness out of the state that you're in and into a higher state, a little bit broader view, remembering who we really are. We get so tied into what we call 3D and all the things that we're producing and responding to and the matrix things. And this is really bringing out of 5D, out of 3D, out of 4D and into 5D, where you're really sort of one with all that is and So that's really kind of a cool thing that they practiced in order to shift dimensional realities. So many
it
things.
completely makes sense. I was going to ask about why always three, because I've always found there's always three breaths, and it's like, why is that? So that was beautiful explanation.
Yeah.
Now you've also, what else have, because we were communicating a little bit before, you've been working on some other things recently, and one of my favorites, the grandmothers, has been coming through for you. Can you share something on that?
Oh my gosh, the grandmothers. I wasn't really aware of the grandmothers. They came through for me a couple of months ago. I'm a channel, and every day, several times a day, if I were willing, I'd have nudges, because this information and what we're going through now is so important, and there's such prolific, explanations for things that are happening. And so the grandmothers came through, and I really didn't even know who they were. But a few days later, I think I noticed a mutual connection we have. Michaela Sheldon mentioning the grandmothers, and there was somebody else and I thought, oh, it's a collective I just hadn't been aware of, because I was Googling them, and I think I had Googled the 13 grandmothers. That's kind of like a native acknowledgement of a collective. But they told me, I asked who they were, and they said they're the natural mothers of the earth who have advanced to a new age. So it's not really limited like to the 13 grandmothers, but they're really representative of, every mother who has ascended in consciousness in some aspect, here to, they said, hold you in our bosom, rock you, hold you while you go through this, and also give you this beautiful wisdom. So if you'd like, I can tell you what they said.
Yes.
And then I can channel them too. But they said, they said they're here to strengthen and to soften us. And we're here to be the masterful beings that work within you and through you to raise the consciousness to a new state of being, a new state of knowing and feeling. Being is the presence of what is known and felt as an aspect of the quantum field that allows what is to become a point of prophecy, mastery, and manifestation. So they're just saying they're here to those are technical terms when I'm talking about quantum field and the prophecy and mastery and timelines and all that, those things, but here to teach us and to guide us. And they talked about grace points, and people call them choice points. These are the sort of the pivot points, or the ways that we can navigate with flow or with ease, with grace. I don't know if people have heard of like this particle and wave physics, quantum physics. If you haven't, the idea is that we can be an aspect particle, or we can flow with a wave, which is the bigger movement. And so kind of like when we feel that rub, we're in a particle state. And when we can flow, with ease, when we're on the path, we're more of the wave. It's an easier way of being. So they're saying there's grace points to always show us, choice points and grace points to always show us kind of navigate the path. So yeah, they've been teaching a lot about forgiveness. And this is like, this forgiveness information came through I just taught a Reiki master teacher training, and the forgiveness information came through all these stages of forgiveness. And if you'd like to talk about it, I kind of can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Please share. And are you able to channel on demand?
Yes, absolutely.
And you could ask the grandmothers to come in. That would be awesome.
Oh, yes. Would you like me to do that first?
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right. So I normally created just to create coherence with this. I create a dome of light over myself, over the space that I'm in, the building and the land, a dome of white light. And within this dome, only love and light of the highest vibration. Only love and light of the highest vibration. And actually, I'm going to create a dome of light over you, Allison, over the space that you're in, the building and the land, as we create sacred space and coherence. We are the Grandmother Collective. We are pleased to be here. And we are also one of you. We speak within you. We walk with you. And we also share with you. We are the voice that speaks the words of wisdom when there is no other way. We are the strength that you find when you have lost all that you have. We are the aspects of you that transcend not only the earth, but also the aspects of you that are beyond your reach. We help you to integrate. We help you to find the way. So as you draw these aspects of you, there are ways of understanding you are more than a being, a human. You are aspects of all of life, all forms of life. And that there is more to you than just this being, more than the soul, more than the light. And as we walk with you, we ask you to see that your breath is the taking in of all that is potential. And what you receive is an opportunity to choose the way, to make a choice that reflects the higher aspects of you, the higher evidence, and the collective one. And that choice may not feel natural, may not feel in character, but it's felt in the heart. It is a deeper knowing that this choice walks the way of love. And so this is the way we are nudging you. We are helping you to see that not all choices are evident, that not all patterns lead to love, and that all reaction is not the first choice point, or even the second one, but perhaps the third, where the ascended consciousness allows you to see that other humans that are on this path, that there is a soul here navigating, and that the path you choose has impact on other souls and on the patterns you leave, the way you leave, the way you lead, the way you walk, the patterns you leave upon this earth as you walk through it are the potential ways that others can follow. And if you choose a choice point that reflects regard for nature, regard for life, what is for the highest good, and what serves the soul, you will always be choosing a path of divine truth, the highest source of truth that you can hold at that time. and leaving a legacy, an imprint on the earth that allows others to do the same. And this navigation is really leading others in a subconscious way into a potential field of thought and feeling that they have never had. This is opening opportunities for shifts and changes, not only within the context of your experience, but in the context of others who are walking the way. And so we bring this to you as comfort, as context, and as potential. Knowing that as you walk the earth, if you are a woman, a mother, a grandmother, and any gender that attributes itself that to the wisdom of feminine, we are within you. And this is a body of light that breathes life into your being and navigates the path of the divine feminine into a new age. And let us leave you with this thought, that the earth and her human race are on a path of glory, are on a path of receiving greater light. And through the way of taking in what is within the field of grace, the field of light bestowed upon you, by making choices that reflect the light, the human race, the earth, all are held in grace. You will find that this movement becomes less aspects of you and more a flow of you. And this impacts every soul upon the earth. This movement through time, space becomes a quantum movement, a way of love, a movement to a one love and a one light. And so it is. You're here. Did you have any questions for the grandmothers, Alison?
Yes. What can we do to bring unity to the planet? I know that's a big one.
This is a beautiful question. And there are so many ways to answer, because every soul embodied as a human is having their own expression. But what you can do, what everyone who hears this interview can do, is take the time to consider that we do not know, that we can neutralize what are our beliefs or our truths or what we hold on to as ourselves, what you call ego, and allow. Behold yourself and behold others, and let every moment unfold. Let every moment become a point of observation and a compassionate moment of understanding. And this practice is the path of neutrality. And this is not to say that you do not do, that you do not activate, that you do not use your power but to say that it is wisdom to allow everything to unfold. Because the guidance that is there for you is always holding space for what is more, for what is attributable to each unique situation, each unique soul, each unique timeline, each unique cycle or theme. And as you see yourself in this cycle, it takes the interpretation of all of those things into account. And you become a part of the whole. And what is more unified than that? It is a state of grace to allow the unification to teach you the way. So you are walking into it as it holds space for you. And that is the greatest thing that you can do, is to be present to what is and understand that there is always a deeper truth and a greater way that you are ascending to.
Beautiful. May I ask one more question?
Yes, yes.
What can we humans do for Gaia right now to assist her?
I think Gaia Sophia would like to come through, but the grandmothers will also speak. The universe is unfolding. It is attributing itself to the earth. There is a connection there that is unseen and unknown, but introducing itself to humanity, and also in coherence with the seed of life. What is Gaia Sophia? And so this field that is the earth, it has polarities. And it also holds an auric field that is much like the auric field of a human. And so this auric field is humanity's consciousness. The auric field of the earth is humanity's consciousness. And so this vibrational field is a frequency of light. And as the hearts open, as the hearts unfold, as the unified field becomes the highest vibrational potential that it can be, the highest light, the brightest light that can be held within each and every soul, this becomes the reflection, the holographic counterpart to what is new earth. And so as you see this reflected oftentimes in meditations or in channelings and even in art, the new earth is a brilliant and vibrant being. It is rays of light and a color spectrum that has never been seen before, that has never been attributed before. And there are all sorts of souls on the earth expressing themselves freely, and yet they are connected. And so it is through the consciousness that this unfolds. And so the healing of the earth happens with or without humanity. But it is the consciousness of love that breathes life into all beings. And so this reflective field that is the heart and the soul of humanity, as it starts to vibrate higher, carry more light, the light is drawn in to the earth and she is healed. But every conscious choice that a human makes that reflects the understanding that the earth is a living, breathing soul and that all of life has value, that is the point that earth is received with grace and the tipping point to what is a new reality. This is happening at great speed at this time, because there is only one truth at this time that it is attributable to humanity, is that there is a tipping point coming where the earth receives herself, and there is grace for humanity, but it is a difficult time. It is a difficult theme. It will require more endurance. And then there is light. And so this is where the light comes in as an important holographic view. It reflects the state of humanity as the consciousness reflects the earth. And so you are here at this time as an ascended soul to pattern new ways, new thoughts, new ideals, and to bring the souls online as a one race, as a one love, reflects a brighter light. And this potential is seated in every soul. And through the light, the universal light that is coming through as plasmic rays, as brighter rays, bringing new seeds of consciousness, new patterns of light. It will happen quickly. It is happening quickly. And so as you take in the light and as you take in breath, know that these are patterns, that they are codes of light that will unfold within you as you allow them. So each soul taking breath, knowing that they are taking in new light, new consciousness, new life, and that is reflected upon the earth. And Gaia Sophia would like to come in. We are Gaia Sophia, speaking through the earth, of the earth. And she is feeling the love that humans have for her. She's also feeling the attributes of humanity that have long ignored the needs of life, the qualities of life, the regard for life. And that is always a navigation and a negotiation of what is exchange. What is used is replenished. What is sourced is renewed. What is seeded is grown. And that can be consciousness or intention or even attributes. There are many souls upon the earth who have intention to utilize, to override, and to undermine. And those ways are deeply seated. They are deeply held. They are being unearthed. And when all is rectified, when this is unearthed, and as it is unearthed, there is a new opportunity, new choice points, new ways to be made. And as they are seen through the hearts and souls of humanity, there will be healing. There will be new ways. There will be retribution. There will be activation. And there will be change. But this is seated as potential within every soul upon the earth to be a participant in new patterns of light, new streams of consciousness. And through these healing ways, we can work together. Know that I am here with you, a part of you. You are part of me. We are one together. And as you feel it, you will know it to be true, that we are in coherence, that the vibrational field of the earth and the auric field of humanity are one unified field, and that the earth is here and contribution to humanity's growth, and humanity's growth is here in contribution to the earth. And so it is, and it is so that a conscious soul contributes to the earth, and they can share their way, they can show their way with every choice they make. We thank you and we honor you for this work that you do, Allison, and for showing the way. And a brighter light is always seen with every breath.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Grandmothers always feel like a warm blanket, you know, it's so comforting, and what a beautiful message from Gaia.
Yeah, the grandmothers really are always like, you know,
Right
holding
here.
you at our bosom, you know, it's like that, just that soft, you know, that soft space being held. I don't even know if I was held that way, but just, you know, I can feel it. Just comfort. You know, there are so many opportunities for discomfort and distress, and to just know that, you know, they're with us, this divine feminine, you know, these shifts and changes that are happening, lots of growth, that there's this soft place to land, soft place of comfort, this deep wisdom that speaks to us and through us in aspects. But they really have come now just for comfort, because growth is not easy, you know, I mean,
No.
Obviously, you know, it is just not easy. And, you know, I kind of think about the kid who has this rough day at school and like can just come home and have this hug and just be rocked. You know, that's what it feels like to me. You know, such wisdom and such sage advice, but also such comfort. Strengthening and softening, I said at the beginning. We're strengthening and softening. So yeah, that
was great. Now you've also had something from the grandmothers recently. Were you in a workshop? Is that what I understood?
Yes. So I teach Reiki, and this past weekend, after, you know, kind of the 2 years of quarantine and everything, finally got the group back together to do Reiki teacher training. So I had this time 12 people, and there are now 12 Reiki teachers out there. And it's just like, it's amazing to see how much it changes and shifts lives, you know, because one Reiki person's expanding and expanding, and it just keeps growing. And I think it was, oh gosh, I can't remember her name. Rain. So she was recently on your podcast.
Oh,
right?
Brooklyn
Rain. Yes.
Yes.
I think she jokingly said once that Reiki's like a gateway drug. You know, it just kind of like, it opens you up, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, navigating all kinds of new things, because Reiki is really an attunement to life force energy. And it's not a healing modality, especially as Reiki level 1 is taught. It's about opening up and understanding consciousness and energy and all these things, and how to like get to know our energy field and our chakras, and how we're interfacing with the world around us, you know, in and out, above and below, in and out. And so I've loved teaching Reiki, and level 1 is like always the most expansive and fun to teach, because it just shifts, right? So some people like to go on and be healers. Anyway, this is Reiki teachers, and the introduction of this new state of awareness regarding forgiveness and the cycles came through for this material, because you know, we always talk about ascended consciousness, and people think about ascension as like, you know, the Buddha, I'm coming up to the crown and I have, you know, ascended consciousness, but it really is just the reverse word physical, and we're reintegrating these states of consciousness, but we have access to it based on, our conditions, our reality, our thoughts. Mm-hmm. So the understanding of forgiveness, and I almost, after channeling this from the grandmothers, just wanted to find a new word, because the first thing that they wanted to say is, when we talk about forgiveness, there's always, I'm gonna have to read my notes. Sorry to do.
There's
always a consideration for both the self and another, and how we've often thought about forgiveness. Do we consider forgiveness as granting latitude or extending grace for another, even when it's not deserved? That's kind of like how, at least I was brought up. Forgiveness is giving somebody the grace of my allowing things to be let go, or so they were saying, to look at forgiveness, there are 6 stages of awareness, or aspects of forgiveness. So they wanted to first discuss the nature of a cycle. So cycles are repeated patterns that create opportunities to develop a deeper understanding of the nature of love through experience. So they said the first cycle of experience as human is to see the way. So every time we're engaged with some sort of cycle or pattern or experience, is to see the way, right? It's almost like what we set an intention for, or taking the 3 breaths and coming into a higher state of consciousness, so that what we're navigating isn't the affect of the experience, but the intention of our heart, or the intention of something that we've set forth as a more conscious way to navigate it. So they're talking about the way as the highest potential choice point to proceed or move through life in any theme or relationship. So the theme of forgiveness, granting the other latitude to be themselves and be where they are at any given moment. So they talk about the first cycle is to see the nature of the way, seen or unseen within you. In this, you see forgiveness as, I forgive you, and yet you still owe me. I forget you, and yet you still did this to me. The first cycle of the stages of the cycle of forgiveness. The second cycle is to see the light, to see the heart in another, is to see their true nature and understand that they may have acted out because of something that caused them or instigated them to step out of their nature. So that's just another layer of understanding, we're opening up with each of these stages, right? So the third cycle is to look at the whole scene, the whole picture, and say, what was my part in it? Not saying my responsibility, but what role do I play in the situation?
That's the hardest part sometimes.
Yeah. What role am I playing? Am I the teacher? Am I the nurturer? Am I the, and understand, where am I? Oh, was it about me that caused this or drew this to me? What was the point of attraction for my experience? How can I support and engage this so that both of us can be seen, heard, and understood? So that's just, another level of integration, is to just, see the situation, the whole situation. And they're saying this could be collective or singular. The fourth cycle is to navigate the way of understanding your part in everything that involves you and includes you. So this is looking at the bigger cycle and the collective, and maybe the nature of the timeline that you're on, or a theme that you're working through. Okay. So it's expanding the picture again. And then the fifth cycle is to see that all is love. Nothing matters that has transpired except how we feel. Both the giver and the receiver become the forgiver and the partaker. And the movement of the way starts to look at who is the instigator and who is the perpetrator. So to put a little pin in that, one of the things that I work with this energy mastery class is looking at these 12 light worker types. there's so many more, but this is Dolores, because I do quantum hypnosis, Dolores Cannon's list. And knowing that there's like instigators and perpetrators and way showers and light workers and, banner carriers, there's all these kinds of like the nature of why you came here as a light worker. What is your role? So there's always somebody perpetrating and instigating and causally impacting something, starting something that needs to happen or be organized. So they're talking about that. And they're also talking about seeing the causal field. What is it about the biology, the nature, the pattern within the human soul that's causing this? What has been patterned? The causal field really represents, it's part of our auric field, but the causal field is really like what we're experiencing, what we've drawn in, what we're navigating, what we've attracted. What is the story, limiting beliefs, anything that might be underlying, and also the navigation of what truth is for each person. Like where have we, what is it about our belief or our understanding that puts us in a space of this is true for me at this time. And then the sixth cycle of forgiveness is to see love, to know that love creates all, that God has created all things. God has created all forms of life. And God also created the circumstances that evolve within the life. So they're just talking about that these are very complex timelines of forgiveness, and it takes awareness of the soul, the blueprint, whatever's happening as far as the cycle or timeline, and what your role is as a light worker at this time. So I just thought it was a body of understanding, and there's so much more. There's just pages and pages, but it just does always navigate back to this, like taking us out of it, taking us
be the observer.
Yeah. Not to not consider yourself, but just really present to what is. Yeah, exactly.
That's a biggie. Yeah. Wow, Allison, wow, this is such great information. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you? I'll put all your information below in the description, but if you just want to give a brief synopsis of what people can get from you and where they can find you.
Probably the best way to reach me is through my website. Just send an email. I'm not as accessible as some others. So if you just send me a note about what you'd like to work with me on, I do a lot of oracle channeling right now, just as far as like what your purpose is or what the story and themes are that you're working with. So just sort of a lot of live channeling and working with people on that. And, if that's sort of like a blueprint for integrating whatever is unfolding. So I do that. And I also do quantum hypnosis, which is just a really beautiful way to have a living, breathing experience of who you were, who you're integrating, who you're becoming. It's just a really beautiful path to healing and awareness. So those are kind of the two things that I'm doing right now. And so more to come.
Great.
The best way to get me is through email. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate you sharing your gifts with all of us today. It was so beautiful.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
This is an action-packed episode, folks. Let me tell you, it's a lot of stuff. Thank you so much, Allison. We appreciate you, and we'll talk again soon.
Very good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.